The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 133 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Wednesday, November 6, 2019. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, how's it going?
Good, man. I'm tired. It's only Wednesday, but I'm tired.
I know. I'm so thrown off because, as we've talked about on the podcast, I've got a new job. I'm working at a daily newspaper now, and we work on tomorrow's paper today. So I'm so confused over what I'm in Thursday mode right now because I worked on Thursday all day today.
Yeah.
And so it feels like it should be almost the weekend. Tomorrow should be Friday, but it's not. Tomorrow's only Thursday.
I have a big project due on Friday this week, and also I'm having new flooring installed, so I'm just trying to make it to Friday.
Yeah.
Looking ahead, and I'm starting to get a little shaky. But nonetheless, I'm here. I'm ready to roll. We're going to keep this bad boy going. It's all good.
Well, I was excited because I had nothing going on tomorrow night. I was like, man, I can come home, maybe make some dinner, actually like just chill out. And then I find out it's parent-teacher conferences tomorrow night. So
Oh, yeah.
get to go do that instead.
You guys never stop.
No, no. Wait till Saturday, James. The boys have a hockey tournament in Gladwin in the morning from about 10:30 to 4.
Oh, my God.
And then I'm heading straight to Saginaw to go to Saginaw Spirit Hockey. So,
Wow.
yep. All
It's
kinds
all
of
day
good
hockey.
stuff.
All day.
Yep. All right. Well, speaking of marathons, we had 500 miles on Sunday at Texas Motor Speedway. Look at that professional transition.
That's really good.
The AAA 500 at Texas Motor Speedway should have been the AAA 300, in my opinion. But especially
like 4 hours.
With the length of that first stage and all the wrecks, I was wondering if we were ever going to finish that race. I thought it might be another Coke 600 type situation, but they managed to keep it off the wall for the next two stages and for the most part, and have a pretty clean race. But James has in the notes here, SHR flexes its muscle, and that was pretty much it. It was an SHR kind of day out there at the
they were tough.
Yes.
All of them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not so much Boyer, but he led. They all led.
Right. Yeah. So Kevin Harvick wins the race with 119 laps led. Eric Almirola second, 62 laps led. Daniel Suarez leads 25 for third. And then where the heck did Boyer end up?
Boyer was 11th with 36.
Yep, 36 laps led. So yeah, it's a pretty good day. Another one worth mentioning. We're going to bounce around a bit here, and we'll talk more about Stuart Haas. But how about old Jimmer? Jimmer leads 40 laps. He finished 34th after spinning.
Yeah,
but Jimmy gets
good there for a little bit.
Yeah, I believe he led in the spring there too, didn't he?
I would. Yeah, I think so. Because he was coming off that really bad Martinsville race in the spring too.
Right.
I think is how it went. I can't remember the timeline very well, but he's had a couple of moments. It's funny we remember when he leads. More
Yeah,
so
right.
than
That's rough.
anything else now. Yeah.
Oh, poor Jimmy.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, we had a pretty wild first stage. Seemed a lot of issues with the PJ1. Kind of seemed like it was a cooler weekend in Texas this weekend. I think it was a little warmer on Sunday than it was on Saturday, but it seemed like until that traction compound got activated, it was pretty slick if you got into it, and we saw a lot of guys.
Yeah, really good drivers too.
Yeah.
Elliott, Kozlowski, Hamlin had issues with it. So Johnson, that's the cream of the crop for talented guys getting involved in kind of silly things. But yeah, I don't know, man. That PJ1, I love it or hate it, I guess, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this was we've seen instances where it hasn't helped, but I think this was the first time we really saw it actually maybe be a problem, I think.
Yeah.
Kentucky, it was pretty much there and did nothing. But here it actually created wrecks. But Texas is tough as it is. It's been tough since the repave, but we saw a lot more stuff happening in 3 and 4 than we've seen usually it's 1 and 2 where everybody struggles. So
Yeah, I don't know, because 3 and 4 is the narrower of the two corners now, the way they
Right.
have it laid out. So I don't know if that has something to do with it too, where drivers were kind of hunting around. I did see Brad Keselowski. He did say that he knew better than to
Right.
go up high, and said he just kind of put himself in trouble
well,
on his own.
he almost lost it in 1 and 2 on the same lap.
Yeah, he was hunting for something, and it kind of bit him in the butt. But
That was a heck of a wreck. Stenhouse just
Yeah.
kind of there in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
yeah, Ricky had nowhere to go. That wasn't even Ricky. I know Ricky's in an accident every week, but that
Right.
wasn't his deal. He was just kind of swept up in it. But
Speaking of that, Ricky Stenhouse did run really well up until that point too. He was up front running better than
yeah,
we've seen him run.
The Fords in general were a strong contingent. I mean, I know Stuart Haas was the best of the bunch, but the Penske guys were also good.
Right. Speaking of crashing though, I'm going to stand by that there is nobody better with worse luck in the playoffs this season than Chase Elliott, man.
Oh, I've got something for Chase. So everybody kind of felt bad for Chase for a little bit,
Right.
And this was kind of his deal.
Yeah,
I don't
this
know.
was Chase. This wasn't mechanical. You can't blame mechanical on this one.
So Chase Elliott inherited all of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s fans. He's also inherited his underachieving in big races.
Dang, man.
How about that?
Oh, you're laying
at me,
it
Chase.
down.
And come at me, Chase Elliott.
That's the most
fan.
popular driver, man.
I know, but
No,
just couldn't
that team that I don't know whatever you want to call it, they are choking this postseason for sure.
and they're still advanced. They still have a shot.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean they have a shot, but they got to win this weekend. I mean
They've been trying to give this playoff run away.
they're the only ones that have to win this weekend. Everybody else could points their way in. It's tough, but
Well, our
could.
guy, this kind of is a little bit of a transition, but Denny Hamlin, the guy we both think was going to win this thing, he went from 24 points to the good to 20 points out.
Yeah.
So 40-plus point swing on his end right there.
yeah, not a great weekend in Martinsville last weekend, and then spins through the grass and rips the splitter off.
All they
at
had to do was
Texas.
have a good day today or on Sunday, and he would have been in still decent shape.
Yep.
But
You got Joey
well,
Logano, who was looking really bad last week. He's 20 in now.
Yeah, it really helped him. So here's my question
Yeah.
off of that. I'm just kind of lining all these things up one at a time now. So do we go to Homestead with the same 4 as we went to Homestead with last year? Is that what's
I
going
don't
to happen
remember who the 4 were last year. Is it the 4 that are in there right now?
here? The 4 that are in there right now: Logano, Harvick, Truex, Kyle Busch, all fighting for the championship for the second year in a row.
I don't think so. I think Hamlin gets in.
I am not giving up on Denny.
No. I think I
who
will
comes
be
out
willing to
now?
give up on the other 3, even though Chase is good at Phoenix. I'm going to get off the Chase bandwagon this week, which means he'll win.
Probably.
So
He could win.
yeah.
He could win there. He could win there.
But I think Denny's going to get in. I think he's going to find a way to get himself in there, and then he's going to be a threat there. I mean, we're going to wipe the slate clean at Homestead anyway, and
Yeah.
I mean, I'd still we've talked about it since we started, since Larson had a shot in this thing. I still want to see Larson get through. I
do
want to
wanna
see
see
what Larson can do as one of the final 4 at Homestead, especially being this is the last season at Homestead.
With a championship on the line, what can that guy do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about somebody who I don't think can hang on to the pressure. I think Larson chokes if he gets in that situation, but
possibly.
I mean, he's run well at Homestead, but he's had 0 pressure every time he's run
never
there.
won there though either. So.
True, that too.
But he's also, when they get to Homestead now, it's everybody else kind of realizes that there's 4 guys.
Yeah, and it was last year, right, where he was going to win the race. He just kind of lifted, or 2 years ago.
That was 2 years ago. That was
Yeah.
the Truex Junior Championship. Yeah, he
Yep.
let Kyle Busch and Martin Truex go at it.
Yeah, that he could have won that race if it was for the championship.
Yeah, if he was really going for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, speaking of Kyle Larson, Larson had some comments about Bubba Wallace this week. Bubba again doing stuff to irritate other drivers, spins himself out. Well, we're pretty certain spun himself out.
He spun himself out on purpose. Yeah. He didn't get the job done the first time, so he looped it again.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty obvious. Like, okay, so what does this tell us more than anything? That Bubba was trying to spin himself out, or these cars have so much grip that you can't spin it out when you try to.
That's part of that too. And he had a tire down too.
Right.
But I think
he had a flat tire. He's running on the interliner. He still can't wreck the thing.
Well, Martinsville, we had Logano and Boyer do the same dang thing. It's just not as that they weren't as blatant about it. But,
right. So I was listening to Dale Jr.'s podcast this week, and they were discussing this, and they were discussing whether this should be something that NASCAR penalizes. And Jr.'s opinion, and I kind of agree with it, is that we don't want NASCAR to be making judgment calls on this type of thing because, yeah, this one was pretty clear, but other ones aren't necessarily going to be. And of course, Junior's one to have an opinion on it because Junior got penalized for doing this before, but Junior got penalized because he bragged about it in the post-race interview.
Yeah, he did.
You know, and there was talk on that podcast about Boyer being penalized for it at Richmond with the whole Michael Waltrip Racing thing. But that really wasn't, and Junior pointed out,
that was a team.
Yeah, that had really less to do with Boyer spinning and more to do with all of the orders that went together to create that whole situation. So NASCAR historically, unless you blatantly say that you did it, hasn't stepped in on this, and I don't think they should. And what they talked about on there is, you know, someone like Kyle Larson should go up to Bubba and say, listen, man, you know, you just screwed me up. You just cost me points, and this was an important day for me, and you're running back here in, you know, whatever position, and you just cost me possibly a championship. So, and you know, or somebody like Jimmy Johnson, somebody with, you know, who's a, you know, elder statesman in the series, go talk to him and say you shouldn't be doing that stuff, and let the drivers police it.
We have this championship structure, and it is so dang fickle, and there's so much going on with drivers who are not even involved in a championship hunt having effects on the race. I would like to see NASCAR crack down on it a little bit. I don't think it's – I don't want to see a judgment call made, but they need to put an end to this now.
See, I don't want that. I don't want – I don't want them making calls. I don't want –
can't have drivers.
Here's the thing, though, James. Here's the thing, though, is you're going to start that. That's where it starts, and pretty soon you've got blocking penalties, and you've got penalties like Formula One has, and we don't want that stuff. I think, you know, and I believe Stewart talked about it this week because they mentioned on the podcast. I didn't hear Stewart, but they mentioned it on Junior's podcast that Stewart weighed in on it, and he agreed that NASCAR shouldn't have any input on it, and he added that NASCAR shouldn't be officiating the yellow line rule too, and I agree.
Maybe he's got a point that the drivers need to police themselves on this one, which I would be okay with. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean this is one of those situations. It's kind of like boys have at it. If NASCAR needs to step in, then yes, but I don't think they need to. I think it's not like it happens. Well, I guess it's happened 2 weeks in a row, but.
How many times have you played the NASCAR video games and you're at Talladega and you lose the draft, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you just loop it around in the backstretch and you're good to get the caution, get caught back up.
I can't tell you how many times I haven't wrecked the guy in front of me to get a caution too. So
yeah, I've done that before.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, okay, what's different about this, James, than if you spin a lap guy out to get a caution? You know, I mean,
yeah. I mean,
so now you got to make a judgment call on that.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I just don't.
I'm not saying what Bubba did was okay. It's not. No, he shouldn't have done it, but NASCAR shouldn't be the one penalizing him for it.
I've always struggled with how we've got a championship battle going on with all these other guys out there. And
right.
But
that's just, what's fun about it, though.
It is, but I have always struggled with what do you do in certain situations, and this falls into that gray area of, oh man, I don't know what to do here. I'd like to see NASCAR do something. I'd like to see somebody do something. Like you said, I think you nailed it. Jimmy Johnson needs to get up in front of the drivers' meeting, or somebody in high stature, Harvick, a champion of the sport, needs to get up there and say, listen, you dumb, you know what?
Right.
Keep four wheels on the track. Let's race. If you're not in this championship hunt, quit affecting things.
Yep.
You know, just drive smart. I think that's all that really needs to be done.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to be said. Just be smart. Be better.
How are you going to penalize Bubba Wallace to make it mean anything? What are you going to? That's the thing. NASCAR is going to create a penalty. All it's going to do is set a precedent, but it's not going to affect anything. It's not going to change anything. So what's the point?
Right.
So
it doesn't matter. All
right. What else about Texas? What else should we talk about? Let's
freaking long.
yeah, 500 miles is just too long for a
It's too
mile
much.
and a half track, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you know my opinion on I still
you
stand
love
by.
long. You love long races.
Yeah, 300 miles max, unless it's one of the special races.
Yeah, and there's nothing. So I'm sorry, Texas. I'm sorry, Eddie Gassage. There's not much special about your track.
So, did you listen to Junior's podcast this week?
I did not, but I did listen to a couple of podcasts, but I did not listen to Junior's.
So let me point out another thing that Junior complained about on his podcast, and I kind of agree with him on it. So apparently during driver intros at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend, while they were introducing the drivers are out on the stage. They got their backs to the backstretch. They have that big giant TV screen at Texas Motor Speedway. Well, on the TV screen, they were putting up these like comments about the drivers as they were being introduced. And they were like really negative, nasty like comments, like making fun of their driving or this and that. And Junior had actual examples of what they had. There was one about Garrett Smithley and wrecking before, or I don't know, just it wasn't good natured stuff. And Junior pointed out, like, are you helping the sport by doing that? And I thought that was kind of just, I don't know. I can't think of the word I'm thinking of. Just not very classy, I guess, by Texas Motor Speedway or whoever did it.
Yeah.
I mean, I know I don't have much of an example here to give you to really.
It's not the time or the place.
No.
No.
And I mean, the drivers didn't know about it. The drivers didn't even see it. And it's
not like they're doing the Jimmy Kimmel mean tweets.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. They're getting ready to go out there and compete.
Yeah.
But these drivers know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The
the
drivers are big boys. They should be able to handle it. But
they should be thick-skinned enough to handle it.
But how are you helping the sport by doing that? What are you really doing? I mean, so Junior commented on, like Daytona 500. Like, can you imagine if they did this at the Daytona 500? They did it at the Indy 500.
Yeah, it's almost like you're making fun of yourself.
Right. I mean, this is supposed to be a big deal. We're supposed to be above this type of stuff. This is supposed to be, something special, essentially. And they're like making a mockery of it. And just, I don't know. I mean, of all the tracks to do it, Texas doesn't surprise me to being the one.
Well, Texas always uses the ways of others to to prop up themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Their promotions are always about somebody else.
Yeah. Junior mentioned the evil stepmother billboards that were up when he was struggling with Teresa. So
yeah, there's that. I remember very fondly the Tony Stewart Carl Edwards battle was pretty much laid out before Texas, and they did that whole thing.
Yeah, and I forget who it was that fought the one week, and the next week Texas had a boxing ring set up for him.
Yeah, well, they did the Denny Hamlin thing this week too.
Yeah,
they were doing that with Joey Logano.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know.
It's not something to get too bent out of shape about, but I don't know. Yeah. Just it's not very classy.
Do what you gotta do, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Anything else worth mentioning about Texas?
Jordan Bianchi had a good. Did you listen to the teardown?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Jordan Bianchi, basically, I'll do this really quickly.
Yeah.
He said he's on the side of Eric Almirola should have pulled over for Kevin Harvick, regardless of when Harvick caught him. Just he should have gave it to him. And I have a hard time disagreeing with that point, as much as I hate myself for it.
Yeah.
For Stewart-Haas Racing, it matters to have Kevin Harvick win that race. If the circumstances would have played out a little differently and Eric Almirola had maybe pulled over to give him the win, it is an interesting concept when you get to this point of the playoff format.
I have a better one for you than that.
Where you've got 4 cars out there and 3 of them can technically prop up that one driver. It was an interesting comment. I encourage people to listen to it. He and Jeff Gluck had a good conversation about it.
I have a better scenario than that for you. So this weekend, Phoenix, William Byron's leading the race, gets the white flag. Chase Elliott's in second.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that's huge. You got Chase, that's the only way he's going to get in. Harvick, he had a pretty good chance of getting in regardless.
Yeah,
but Chase isn't getting in without the win this weekend. As a fan, I'd be pissed. I mean, I was mad at Supercross last year when I forget who it was. Eli Tomac was up for the $1 million in the Monster Energy Cup, and his teammate pulled over. I think it was Jordan, or I was Savacci, pulled over in on the last lap, just blatantly pulled over and let him get the win and get the $1 million. And that really made me mad. But from a team standpoint,
Yeah, you gotta look at it from the team perspective, right?
And what does
You have
NASCAR
all
do
of
then?
these- You have they've already kind of set the precedent on that.
Right.
But I mean, there's ways that you can talk about it before the race and say, "Hey guys, if this situation comes up, here's what you got to do."
Right. And by the way,
Because-
Chad Knaus and William Byron say that they would not pull over for
No,
Chase
they'd go
Elliott.
for the win. No, Chad Knaus isn't doing that crap. He ain't gonna let that happen.
I don't know, man. I think they
But-
say it. I don't think they mean it. I think they would back off.
But think about it from Stuart Haas's perspective. Busch is one of the biggest sponsors they have. On Harvick's car has their two biggest sponsors, Busch and Mobil One,
Right.
and he's going to be going to compete for a championship. So, I mean, from the team perspective, it does make sense. It's
Yeah.
an interesting thought. This is not the last time this is going to come up in NASCAR if this
No.
playoff format continues the way it is.
It's not just that. It's going to go further than this.
Yes.
There will be a decision moment when it really matters.
Manufacturing.
Yep.
We've already seen the manufacturers are trying their damnedest to ruin super speedway racing for
Yep.
us with
Yep.
some of the stuff that they're pulling, and it makes me discouraged heading into the Daytona 500 next year a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Some
I
of the-
agree. I agree.
It drives me crazy. I don't know, but I just encourage people to listen to the teardown just to hear that part of the conversation because I was really intrigued by it.
I'll have to check it out. No, I did not listen this week. So
Yeah, we've seen it in F1 before. Wasn't it Michael Schumacher somebody gave him a win long time ago. So yeah, it's happened, but there is so much on the line for this championship. It's an interesting dilemma.
Yeah.
I guess.
It is. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so we kind of pretty much talked about the points. We got two drivers locked in for Homestead. Martin Truex Jr. and Kevin Harvick gets the win this weekend.
By the way, Kevin Harvick, my pick last week.
Nice,
by the way,
nice.
I know. I was pretty stingent on him too.
Yeah.
Like.
Kyle Busch is in right now, 22 to the good. Joey Logano, 20 to the good. Denny Hamlin's 20 out. Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney both 23 out. I mean, realistically, all those guys have a shot at either making or missing the playoffs or the Final Four. Chase Elliott, 78 points out. He's out without a win.
He's got to win. Chase has to win.
So, but again, we're going to a track that Chase is good at. He's run well at Phoenix, and so there's a chance it could happen.
It's tough because it's Kyle Busch's playground.
Yeah.
So really, it's
Kevin Harvick's playground too, although not in this configuration.
Not as recent. Yeah, not as recently. Kyle Busch has kind of put his stamp on it the last few years. It's going to be tough to see anybody fall out of there. I think we've got three. It's Truex, Harvick, and Busch. Even though
I don't know, man.
Kyle Busch has somehow backed his way all the way in, and he's going to make it to Homestead on one of the weaker playoff runs.
But that's the thing, though, James, is he's only 22 points to the good. He has one bad stage, just
you
one
blow
bad
a tire?
stage.
Yeah, you blow a tire. I mean, that stuff happens, right?
Right, but I mean, just one bad stage, and he's out.
He's in trouble. Yeah, he's in big trouble.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I would.
Yeah, let's say if
I wouldn't
Denny
bet on
Hamlin.
him.
Oh no, I don't feel comfortable with Kyle Busch at all because of the way he's been running. I'm more confident in Denny Hamlin, who's on the outside looking in, than I am Kyle Busch. But Kyle Busch has those points, that nice little cushion, so he can have one bad stage and then go out and win stage two, and he's got his points. You know, he'll be in pretty decent shape. So
right.
Yeah,
I will note too that we're talking about Phoenix, and we'll preview Phoenix here shortly, so we'll probably get into this a little bit more then. But I mean, Kyle, the last three races, he's got 2 wins out of the last 3.
He's out of control.
His average finish of 1.3.
Yeah, he's led 422 of 936
Harvick still has an average finish of 5th in the last 3.
with a win. Yeah,
which, I mean, his average finish is 9.3 total at this track. So
he's
not a slouch. He's won at Phoenix 9 times.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
I mean, you say it's Kyle Busch's playground. Kyle's only won 3 here because they've been recent, but Harvick's got 9. Harvick's got the most wins here of anybody. So
yeah, Harvick is man. Remember, it was not that long ago. He was He was unstoppable. But Kyle Busch has won the last two. He won the spring race and he won last year to get himself locked into Homestead.
Right.
Man, wow. Yeah.
All right.
If you're looking at the past winners, it's just Kevin Harvick and
Yeah.
everybody else is kind of
Jimmy Johnson has 4.
Yep. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s last career win, Phoenix,
There you
in
go.
a rain shortened event too.
Interesting.
Yep.
All right. We got a couple news items this week. Nothing real major happened this week in the world of news. Roger Penske bought IndyCar and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. No big deal. Nothing.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say you led with IndyCar, but I feel like the purchasing of the track is the bigger news. Buying IndyCar is also huge news, but yeah,
I don't know. They're both pretty darn big.
But the track is
I disagree. I feel like Penske buying the Speedway is less of a surprise considering he's a former track owner than him buying the series.
4 men have ever had their names on the deed to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and it's 100+ year history.
Right.
That's pretty significant.
Yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
Roger Penske, he's like the Jesus of auto racing. Yeah. He's there for us when we need him most.
So how does this, when you own a series, but you also own a team in the series, not to mention one of the best teams in the series, how does that work?
This is the Tony Stewart model, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Only does it on a small level. He
Right.
owns a series. He owns a team in that series in the All-Star Circuit of Champions, and he owns Eldora, which they race on. So
yeah, it's kind of the same.
It is
scenario.
and he's the driver. So
Right.
I don't know. It's kind of that's like the mini version of what Roger's trying to do. But I guess it's just, I don't know. You operate them as separate businesses, right?
I guess so.
I don't know. This is a strange one.
So
on a high profile level, it's strange.
So what does this mean? What can we? Because I mean, other than the fact that Roger has pointed out that he, plans to continue the relationship with NASCAR with Indianapolis Motor Speedway and the Brickyard 400, and he also floated the idea of IndyCar NASCAR doubleheaders. Aside from those things, or even with those things, what else can we expect from this just by guessing what this will mean?
I think we're going to see more. We're going to see more flexibility on IndyCar's side to have more joint events with NASCAR. Number one, I think that's going to happen.
Right, I agree.
I think we are essentially, and this came as a shock to us when this news hit.
Yeah.
I think it was a shock to everybody. We didn't even know this was on the radar. So
not a bit.
You and I were talking last week about IndyCar, NASCAR, getting something together. I think this happens sooner rather than later now.
Mm-hmm.
I think IndyCar is going to have some built-in flexibility, and I think Roger can talk about keeping NASCAR at Indianapolis Motor Speedway all he wants, and for whatever reasons he publicly states, but he's not turning away those TV dollars. Let's be real. That big contract that's a lot of money, and to have that date on the calendar is super important. So that's not going away. I don't know. I don't know if it's really that big of news on the NASCAR side. I did see a story about maybe they think about putting in lights. I don't know. That doesn't really.
At Indy?
I mean yeah.
Man, that'd be tough. That'd be a hard track to light. I mean, not that they couldn't do it, but it'd be a hard track to light.
You could have races in July again where you could have cooler weather. Yeah. So, I mean.
The thing you have to understand about lighting a track, too, that people don't really understand, they don't really think about, is that
it's the outside the track.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just the track. And you got to think of Indianapolis. First of all, if you've ever been down there, it's kind of, I don't know, is this really the area you want to be walking around in after dark?
Yeah.
Especially on a NASCAR weekend when you've got a lot smaller crowd of people and, and not just that, but even the infield and everything. You got the golf course there.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I think it'd be really tough to light that place.
Yeah, that's why we lived that with Michigan International Speedway.
Yep.
It's never going to get lit because of how, it's literally in the middle of nowhere.
Right, and that's the other thing you got to consider too. I mean, Indy is, it's in Indianapolis, but it's not in Indianapolis. It's quite a ways out of the city. Yeah, exactly. And if you go, like I've been to a couple tracks that run night races. I've been to Kentucky and Chicago, and you go, and one of the consistent things you see at these big NASCAR tracks that are lit, I guess I've been to Daytona too, is a giant power grid going to them.
Yeah.
There's these huge power lines going there because they need a lot of power to light that track. And so you have to, that's why Michigan likely is never going to get lights, because like you said, it's in the middle of nowhere. They're going to have to run a lot of power out there to light that. It's just never going to be worth it.
And Brooklyn is a very little town. It's
right.
It's mom and pop.
And I mean, what does Indianapolis gain by being lit? Maybe the NASCAR race is a little cooler, but you're not going to run the Indy 500 at night. That'd be ridiculous.
No.
First of all, it's in May, and it's not. I don't think it's that warm to run it at night. But
no,
you are not going to. That race is one of those traditional races that you just can't change. You gotta. It's kind of like, it's kind of like Tony's talked with Eldora. There's certain modifications they won't do at Eldora because you just can't change the history of it, and that's the same way as Indy.
Yeah, it's Wrigley Field. It's Fenway Park.
I mean, you can screw with the Brickyard 400 all you want. There's not a whole lot of tradition there. No. Except that it's at Indianapolis, but the Indy 500 has 103 years of tradition.
Yeah,
you're not changing that.
I will say though,
you're going to be very unpopular.
We ran the Daytona 500 under the lights quite a few times.
Yeah, but even the Daytona 500, I don't know. NASCAR is so gimmicky that I think you can get away with that stuff.
True.
Shoot, the Southern 500's under the lights now.
Yeah, it is.
So
that's true.
But night racing in NASCAR isn't. It's not as.
It's part of it. It's bred into the sport.
Yeah, I mean, it's stock car racing, man. NASCAR came from the bull rings, the night races at the short tracks.
Yeah. Yep.
So okay, so here's two takeaways I have from this, and then we'll discuss it a little bit more.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts, because that's the first thing I jumped to, but I wanted to hear your perspective.
Well, this is. I mean, first of all, I think it's a cool deal, but we'll get into that in a minute. The two things that I draw from this, two conclusions I draw from this that we're going to see. These are my predictions. One, the whole, I don't know. I just lost my train of thought. Okay. Skip that thought. So Penske owning the IndyCar series, we will not, and this was a question I was asked on the radio. I went on in Toledo yesterday. We will not see IndyCar back at Michigan International Speedway because of this deal.
No.
And the reason for that is because Penske also puts on the race at Belle Isle.
Yep.
And he is not going to pull, even though they wouldn't be on the same weekend, he is not going to pull resources from Belle Isle to run at Michigan International Speedway. So we can kiss the idea of IndyCar at MIS goodbye, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, this is coming from nothing.
I just thought of one, and I hope you say what I'm thinking. Go for it.
I'm just saying I'm basing this off of absolutely no information whatsoever. Right. No inside information. This is just my guess. What was yours?
I had one more thought about this.
Okay.
Leaning more towards the flexibility of IndyCar.
Mm-hmm.
Would Roger Penske be the guy to help us deliver NASCAR drivers at the Indianapolis 500?
That'd be cool.
Can we get that flexibility somewhere in the schedule? Can Roger Penske broker that deal to get us a Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch?
That'd be awesome.
At the Indianapolis 500.
I want to see Kyle Busch run the Indy 500.
Kyle Larson. I want to see Larson. I want to see those guys.
I want to see Busch run it so bad because I feel like he would be spectacular.
And Kurt was spectacular when he ran it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kyle's got such skill in cars. He's done so much on the NASCAR side that it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'd love to see Kyle Busch run open wheel one time.
Speaking of Kyle Busch running another series, James.
Hell yeah.
Kyle Busch.
So good transition.
Yeah, Kyle Busch is going to run the Rolex 24.
Yeah. He must be getting bored.
I guess so. I mean,
he's going to run what's the team? The oh my God, the AIM Vassar Sullivan Toyota?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yep.
Lexus. I guess it's a Lexus, but
right. Yes, it is.
There you go. Yeah. Same thing. Lexus and Toyota are the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is a cool deal. It's not surprising. Kyle's wanted to branch out a bit. He did say this week, reiterated again, that once he hits 100 wins in the Xfinity Series, he's done. Of course, he did mention that if he needs to sell some sponsorship or, Joe Gibbs needs him to run a race or two, he'll do it. But
a little caveat there.
Yeah, he says he wants to run more truck races, but they won't let him do that. So he took a little shot at that whole deal.
Yeah, it's his own damn fault. He was too good.
Yep. So, but there's not a whole lot to say here. I mean, we've seen Cup drivers run in the Rolex 24 before, and it's cool that Kyle's going to get a chance to do it, and be interesting to see how he does.
Yeah, Tony Stewart, Dale Jr., they teamed up one time. Dale Jr. and his dad teamed up.
Yep.
Larson won the dang thing, didn't he? With McMurray.
Yeah.
McMurray won it.
Right.
Yeah, with Ganassi. So.
Yeah, we've seen
Juan Pablo.
It's actually probably happened more than people realize because it doesn't get the publicity all the time that it might. So.
I think the Dinger won it too, if I'm not mistaken.
A
lot of Cup guys have done really well at the Rolex.
Yep. Silly season stuff. Tony Stewart says SHR is getting closer with Suarez, but every day that we say we're getting closer with Suarez, it starts to feel like maybe something's not going to come together.
Well, and I just saw on Twitter that the ownership group of the 32, they want LaJoie back. So Custer's not going there, sounds like.
Interesting.
So I don't know what that means for Daniel, but I'm assuming they're going to get this done on a 1-year deal.
So a couple weeks ago, I agreed with the whole concept of, there's no point in moving Cole Custer up right now because it's going to be a new car anyway. Why get him experience in this car? But wouldn't you want him to get some experience when it doesn't matter racing against these guys? Like, how is it going to hurt to get him?
What's he going to do? Just keep driving in the Xfinity Series?
Right.
It doesn't matter. Just get him in the seat.
Yeah, it's not like he's learning in the Xfinity Series or anything that's going to help him in Cup. He's not racing against the same guys, so why not get him up here and race against these guys? So
seat time matters no matter what. Just get him in a seat. Yeah. Keep him going.
One way that Daniel Suarez can ensure that he's back next season, though, is to lead 25 laps or more in a race and finish third. That helps.
Good. Yep. He had a really good day at Texas. A really good day.
Yep. We also got word this weekend that Kurt Busch is re-upped with Chip Ganassi, a multi-year deal, 2 years, I believe.
A multi-year deal, and Monster's going to stick with him too.
Yep.
Yeah.
I felt this was a little bit of a surprise, not in that Kurt has re-signed, but that
that's why I put it in the notes, because it surprised the heck out of me. I'm like, wait a second, that's a multi-year deal?
Yeah, Kurt was talking about hanging it up at the end of this season, and now he's back for multiple years.
Well, who does Ganassi have to replace him? Man, who's better than Kurt Busch coming up for them?
Other than Ross Chastain, nobody. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in the works.
No, I'm not trying to insult Ross Chastain, but
I'd take Kurt.
Yeah, I'm still going to stay with Kurt if I had to choose two drivers for the next couple of years.
Yep.
Ross is a fine driver. He's done a heck of a job with what he's got, but yeah.
I've gone back and forth with Ross.
He's done more with less than most guys in his situation would have done, I think.
He's pretty abrasive, though.
He definitely is.
I almost feel like he's getting too much confidence right now.
You can either really like it or you can really dislike it.
Yeah, he has a right to be overly confident because of what you just said, that he's done a lot with little. But sometimes that comes across as arrogance, and it doesn't.
He's got it. Well, here's the thing. He's got a chip on his shoulder, which I love.
Yeah.
And when you're losing and you're brash like that, it comes off as, what is this guy doing? But when you're winning and you're brash, it comes across as confidence, right? So he's still riding that confidence bubble, trying to win this truck championship. And he's got a ride in the Xfinity. He's got a good ride in Xfinity next year, so he's climbing the ladder again. So we'll see where he ends up, but he's still winning. So I'm kind of pro Chastain, but I see where you're coming from for sure.
Right. A couple other news items that aren't on the list here, but just things that are popping in my head. James, I mentioned before we started recording that I wanted to mention the Tony Stewart deal. Stewart did the whole run around the track at Circuit of the Americas with the Cup car. Thought that was pretty cool. Claimed, I think he said something along the lines of thinking that the Cup cars could run there, and saying he wants to get back in a stock car.
Waiting for those quotes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, and he had some comments about how tough some of the drivers are now, and the whole fighting deal and everything. There's some good stuff from Tony. So
He could still kick everybody's butt in the garage.
yeah, that's what it was. What did he say? He would like to take both Denny Hamlin and
He said line them up. Yeah, line them up.
and he'll whip both their asses. He said so.
Oh no, Denny Hamlin's also kind of hurt, so he's gonna have off surgery. So he might still be able to take Denny. I'm trying to think of who he couldn't take. De Benedetto, I wouldn't mess with him. He's got some cannons. Who's another guy? Newman still scares me.
Yeah.
Kind of like a wrestler. He's low to the ground and he's probably surprisingly strong.
Right.
Got that farm strong. So yeah, there's a couple of guys I wouldn't mess with, but Tony I'd still take. Pound for pound, he's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Another thing worth mentioning, just because I like the guy, it's nice to see him get another opportunity. We mentioned Ross Chastain running for Nice Motorsports in the Truck Series. He's going to be joined this weekend at Phoenix by Ty Majeski, who's getting his first truck start this weekend. Going to run the truck for Nice Motorsports, so we'll see what he can do. Majeski had a good career in the ARCA Series, moved over to Roush and struggled at Roush, and I guess he's been back doing late model racing and doing a heck of a job racing late models. So cool to see him get another shot. Hopefully he can do something with it. Yeah,
I got another one too. Riley Herbst. We didn't put this in the notes, but he's going to drive the number 18 for Joe Gibbs in the Xfinity Series next year full time.
Nice. I did not know that. That's what I didn't even know.
Yeah, he's going full time, and then Gibbs is actually going to have to fire up a fourth car to run part time for Hamlin and Busch.
Interesting.
So they've got their Xfinity lineup set for 2020. So Jeffrey Earnhardt not coming back. But so that's another good young driver getting a shot there. There's been a little bit of movement. We got some crew chief movement. Luke Lambert will be with Chris Buescher next year, and then Randall Burnett will go with Tyler Reddick. So a couple of quick hitting silly season items. But
okay. There we go. We go to Phoenix, which will always be Phoenix International Raceway to me instead of
Jeff Gordon Raceway.
Exactly. When I hear ISM Raceway, I think of Sears Point for some reason.
That's a good one.
But it is the Blue Green Vacations 500 from ISM Raceway. Sorry, I couldn't say that without laughing. And I guess I get the first pick this week, huh?
You do. You gotta beat me. I got the win last week. I'm gonna keep bragging about it because that's the only thing I got. I sucked in fantasy, so.
Well, I'm gonna give you the guy that you're probably gonna pick, and I'm gonna go Kevin Harvick and say he's gonna keep this thing going and get the win.
Oh, you
weekend.
like? Okay.
Yeah, so I'll give you Busch because I'm sure that's probably who you're gonna take, right?
Listen, I want to take Kyle Busch, but for our playoff bracket purposes, I need Denny Hamlin to win this race.
Okay.
So I'm going to say Denny Hamlin because I need him. He's my pick to be the champion. So I need him to put up or shut up, man. This is big time.
There you go.
Right.
Dark Horse, you get first.
Man. What do I do here? What do I do? I feel like William Byron doesn't count anymore.
He hasn't got that win yet, man. I think you could pick him.
I know. I'm going to say Austin Dillon. He's actually not that bad here. I'll go Austin Dillon.
I am going to go with a guy who he was originally not able to be a dark horse, and he's been able to be a dark horse now. And even more so here because he does not have a win at this track, but he has an average finish of 13.5, and I'm going Ryan Newman.
The Rocket Man.
I remember Ryan making a pretty big move to get himself into the Final Four at Phoenix a few years ago. So.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's no slouch here.
I'm looking at the numbers here really quick. I want to point this out.
Yeah.
Joey Logano is 23rd on the list on average finish at 22 over the last 3 races.
Interesting.
That is something. That sticks out to me.
By the way, my Ryan Newman point. So he does he have a win here?
He does have a win there.
Because I'm looking at the last 4 races. So
it's
the last
an early
4 races.
he won one of his first races with
that's right.
with Richard Childress in the 31 a few years.
Yeah, what does
back.
he look
but
like
I'm
overall?
gonna give it to you.
Yeah, I'm still taking him.
That's fine. Yeah.
Overall 15.9. So he actually has a better average finish. No, 16.7. He has a better average finish in the last 4 races than he does over his career, with
That's awesome.
2 wins at Phoenix.
Yeah, 2 total wins. And neither of us picked Alex Bowman, who could very well go out there and win this thing.
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
easily.
He's not dark horse anymore though.
He is not a dark horse, but he has an average start of 5 over the last 3 races, so that is
Nice.
tops on the circuit.
Nice.
Other than Chase Elliott, I missed him. 2.3. That's really good. So there you go.
Cool. Is it even worth talking about the fantasy league? I didn't pick my drivers again this week. Did I win?
No, you did beat me though, but I think it's gonna be a long shot for you to catch me. So I'm feeling pretty good with one race before the championship. I'm actually pulling it up right now.
I think I'm just gonna keep the same drivers the rest of the season.
Might have to. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right?
Right.
I will say about our playoff bracket really quick.
Yeah.
A few of us are doing pretty good. I don't have the sheets in front of me. I don't think anybody has Harvick as the champion.
Okay.
But a lot of people, I do have him in the final 4. So it's going to be tight. If Denny Hamlin does not make the championship 4, it's going to put things kind of haywire, and it's going to break some people away. So overall standings for our league, it is Ranger Runyon reclaims. We have a really good championship battle. Ranger Runyon leads in the overall standings by 3 points. After all that, it is a 3-point lead over Justin 713 for the championship.
Huh.
Freight Train is just under 100 points back, so he's not out of it either. And then it's Hurricane Dicka, me, you, and Scoters.
There you go.
And then for Texas, the winner was Freight Train, and then Ranger Runyon, Justin 713. The KB Show and Smokey Come Back round out your top 5. So there you go. Brad Keselowski really screwed me. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it. That was the one. That was the big one.
All right. Let's see. I was looking something else up here that has nothing to do with the podcast right now. But anyway.
We're on the clock.
Yeah, right. Let's any shout outs, James?
I think we did I think I did a shout out last week, but next week we're gonna have a little bit of a different podcast. That's what I'll say. It's gonna be kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Ben, you know who you are. Be ready. There's my shout out.
There you go. Okay. I got a couple. I have my weekly Dale Jr. podcast shout out, but it's a little bit different this week. It really has nothing to do with the podcast except for a discussion that was had during the podcast that I found interesting. So, he mentioned they were talking to, is it David Hobbs? NASCAR,
yeah.
former announcer. He was the guest, and they were talking about Hobbs was talking about when he worked with CBS and the whole aspect of you're working for, a network station that you're trying to expose NASCAR to an audience that maybe doesn't fully understand the sport, while at the same time trying to cater to the fans that are diehards and know this stuff. And so there's this balance that you have to play. And Junior talked about this, that they had a moment like that at Texas this weekend. They were discussing during the commercial break whether to bring it up on the actual broadcast. And I'm guessing because I didn't see it on the broadcast, I either missed it or they didn't end up discussing it. But apparently Kevin Harvick, they were watching the onboard, and they were listening to his radio chatter, and he was turning off the switch for the alternator during the race to gain extra horsepower. And they were telling him to watch the voltage to make sure that he didn't basically run the car out of juice and screw himself over. So this is another one of those things that these teams are doing. These little things that you don't realize. It's not just as simple as just getting in the car and driving. They're switching the alternator off and balancing how long they can switch that off to get the extra horsepower versus when to turn it back on so the car doesn't die.
That's crazy.
Really interesting.
Well, it goes down to we have some really smart engineers in NASCAR, and that is something. That I did not hear about that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really neat. And even Hobbs said that he did not know that they were doing that. So it's kind of cool when we're hearing stuff that even the pros don't know about. So I thought that was neat.
Do you think this is probably not the main reason why, but do you think Joe Gibbs? We're supposed to be ending the show, but I have a question.
No, it's okay.
Do you think Joe Gibbs is like looking over their shoulder going, what the heck happened at Texas, and should we be worried for Homestead?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
That was a butt whooping.
Yeah, it was.
And we're heading into Homestead, and if I were Joe Gibbs Racing, I'd be wondering like, what the heck?
Right.
Did Stuart Haas rope-a-dope us all season,
Right.
or what? Like, what happened?
There you
It's
go.
pretty
You got
cool.
that quote in after all.
Yeah, there it is.
My other shout out that I wanted to mention is also Dale Jr. related. And it is, I meant to mention it last week and completely forgot about it. NBC Sports through the rest of the season is doing the Dale Jr. Spy Cam, where they basically have a camera pointing at Dale Jr. in the tower during his broadcast, and they will replay some of his best calls and different things on their YouTube channel, the NASCAR on NBC, or NASCAR on NBC Motorsports, I think is the channel on YouTube that has this.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of cool. I mean, it's another look at the behind the scenes of things, and I think Junior to me feels like one of us up in the booth, and it kind of is interesting to see what one of us would be like in the booth. So if you're sick of Dale Jr., then don't watch it, but I thought it was pretty neat.
Well, and that just this is one of those things like, what is the data telling you now that Dale Jr.'s had 2 full seasons in the booth?
Right.
It's people want Dale Jr.
Yeah.
They just want to see Dale Jr. They probably could care less. Some people could probably care less about the race sometimes.
I'll tell
as
you
long
what,
as they
I am
get their Dale Jr. fix.
Okay, so I was never a giant Dale Jr. fan. I did cheer for him to win some races at the end, especially, he was NASCAR's most popular driver at the time. You want your most popular driver to be winning races. But I am a huge Dale Jr. fan since he's been out of the car. I think as a broadcaster, he's spectacular. I was a big fan of the podcast as he was doing it, and so I've become a pretty big Dale Jr. cheerleader, if you can't tell from this podcast.
Yeah, the last few episodes, you've really been nailing that Dale Jr. download.
Yeah, I've been back to listening to it weekly, so he's
Get
had
that
some
Dale
good
Jr.
shows.
download, people.
Yeah,
Get that. Yeah.
there you go. Anything else, James? Did I
I
miss
think we're
anything?
good, man. No, I think we're good.
All right, let's close this sucker out. Where can they find you on social media if they want to talk to you during the week?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/TheSuperspeedway. Our website is thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast there, show notes, links to the articles we discussed, and also past coverage of races and all kinds of stuff there. So check that out, thesuperspeedway.com. You can find the podcast on Apple Music, Google Play, and SoundCloud, wherever you found it today. We hope you subscribe and continue to listen. And if you want to become a part of the show, as Ben will be doing next week, you can become a patron at patreon.com/thesuperspeedway. We go to ISM Raceway this weekend in Phoenix. It is the Blue Green Vacations 500. We'll be back maybe a little early next week to discuss it, break it all down, and preview Homestead. Get ready for the Final Four, the championship race, the very last Ford Championship weekend from Homestead Miami Speedway.
Oh,
I know, right?
makes me sad.
And we get a preview of next year's championship race this weekend at ISM Raceway. We'll be back next week to discuss it. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.